Hey everybody, I hope you're having an awesome day. I wanted to come on just for a few minutes to talk about inflammation. And I'm going to apologize in advance if I'm starting to sound like a broken record when it comes to talking about inflammation. But the more I learn about it, the more my mind kind of gets blown on how chronic inflammation, like what it does to our body, both our physical health and our mental health. I posted something earlier today about how research, like newer, more recent research, is starting to show that depression is actually an inflammatory disease. I can link that. If you like to read, those research-based articles, I can link that down in the comments for you. But it's just that reminder that not only is our mental health and our physical health closely tied together, but chronic inflammation is really harmful to both our mental health and our physical health. If you struggle with anything chronic like diabetes or heart disease or allergies or arthritis or chronic pain or autoimmune disease, reducing inflammation can only be helpful. It's so important. So I wanted to talk for a couple of minutes just about how we can do that with food, right? Because there's kind of two ways of looking at it. We need to reduce the foods that we're consuming that are causing the inflammation, and we can add in foods and supplements that are actively reducing the inflammation. It's a little bit different focus. So I wanted to talk about a few food groups really that cause inflammation, that if we avoid those, then we're already starting to reduce inflammation in our bodies. So first off, for me especially, is gluten. Gluten causes inflammation. And so when I've talked about this before, so I'll keep that part short, right? If I eat too much gluten, I actually get a fever within 24 hours. For me, that fever is systemic inflammation, and my whole body hurts when that happens. But for some people too, grains, any kind of grain, if you're sensitive to that, it can cause inflammation. You might not know if you're sensitive to gluten or grains unless you eliminate them for a short period of time and you see how you feel. We actually found out that Gary was reacting to rice and other kinds of grains, and he feels so much better when we keep those out. So for me, it's like I stay away from gluten, but for him, we had to do a clean sweep of all grains. I'm not sure at some point, hopefully we'll be able to add back in things like rice and maybe some other things, but that's kind of where we're at right now. Also dairy. Dairy is known for causing inflammation. I'm okay, like trial and error, right? I know I'm okay having a little bit of cheese or a little bit of ice cream. But on the daily, I switched over to plant-based milks. So almond milk, oat milk, I use that in my coffee and stuff like that. Refined sugar causes inflammation. So we avoid that at all costs whenever we can. So I swap out sugar for stuff like coconut sugar, which our body metabolizes different. Raw sweeteners like honey or raw pure maple syrup. We swap some stuff for stevia. Stay away from all artificial chemical sweeteners. Right? So if you're trying to avoid sugar, don't do that by drinking the diet drinks. You want to make sure you're swapping for something healthy. Also, we avoid corn most of the time. Corn is a grain, so if you're sensitive to grains, you can react to that. Most corn is genetically modified, and that's not great for us either. So when we did our whole nutrition switch over about 10 years ago, we started cutting out gluten, dairy, sugar, corn, and a lot of soy, again, because that's genetically modified. When I look at my nutrition overall, if I was going to put a name to that, I don't like the word diet, but if I was going to say my nutritional strategy, I call the way I eat like pretty much paleo, right? I do the best I can. I'm not into labels. Like, I don't care whether I call it paleo or not. I'm not into the whole like eat like a caveman thing. But when we look at that paleo kind of nutrition, it's pretty much meat, like whatever kind of meat you enjoy, whether that's red meat, chicken, fish, whatever, and fruits and vegetables. And if we stick to that, if we stick pretty close to that, the possibilities are endless, right? What else is there to eat? You can eat we eat any and all meats and fruits and vegetables, and I stay away from as much as I can when it comes to gluten, dairy, sugar, corn, and soy. You know, if we were going to put that up against keto, because some people go, well, like paleo, keto, what's the difference? First off, full disclosure, I am not an expert. I'm not an expert in, I'm an expert in me, what works for me. I'm not an expert in the keto diet or how that works or getting your body into that ketosis thing. I don't know how that works, but I look at a lot of recipes. I get advertised in social media and on Google. I get advertised a lot of recipes. And when I look at recipes, just short glance at some keto recipes, what I see is a lot of them focus on reducing carbs by swapping things for cheese and dairy. So instead of, you know, I don't know, instead of a carby or flour tortilla or something, you're going to make this whole thing with cheese. And then you're swapping a lot for like cheese and dairy. If your goal is to reduce inflammation, you could be shooting yourself in the foot if you're swapping carbs for dairy. So when you're looking at what you're eating and how it's making you feel, you might want to look at like, what's your focus? What's your end goal? Is your end goal to reduce inflammation? Is your end goal to shed pounds by doing a certain diet or nutritional thing? Okay, it's not for me to say what's going to work for you, but be aware, if you're using a lot of keto recipes and eating a lot of dairy and your body's not feeling good, you might want to take a look at that inflammation piece and the role that that might be playing in whatever health condition you're struggling with, or whatever, you know, if that's a pain thing. Reducing inflammation and getting rid of the dairy might be helpful. You don't know unless you try, right? That's kind of how I figured stuff out. I just started switching stuff over, making different kinds of recipes, cutting out some of these things, and I realized I felt so good that I realized that was the key. So we can start by stopping or avoiding the inflammatory foods, and then we can start to look at, all right, how can I actively reduce the inflammation? What supplement can I take? What kind of foods can I eat that will, you know, take that to the next level to say, now I'm going to actively reduce the inflammation. And honestly, that the 11-day Jumpstart that I do every month, that's the key. We avoid the inflammatory foods. We bring in the anti-inflammatory supplement, and we put all of it together. And it's kind of, you know, it just kind of brings all those pieces together. Let's see. I've always got notes, right? I think I hit all of my points. I wanted to keep it quick today. But if you want any more, if you want some more information, if you want to keep in touch on that, I love sharing recipes. I love sharing my favorite cookbooks. I love sharing about the 11-day Jumpstart, because this was my 1-year anniversary and doing the Jumpstart every single month. And honestly, what I found is it's so sustainable that now, you know, 11 or 12 months later, whether I'm doing the Jumpstart or not, the healthy habits have just taken on, right? I'm avoiding the inflammatory foods. I'm using my anti-inflammatory strategies. I'm drinking my water. I'm doing my exercise. And it just kind of, you know, it starts to tip over, spill over, right? Like into real life. And I've been feeling pretty good about that. So anyway, have an awesome rest of your day. And let's connect if you've got any questions, or I can share anything else with you. So stay well. See you.